first of all, the first of the two speakers is Dr. Folarin Gbadebo-Smith. He's from Nigeria. He's had separate professional careers, both in government, public policy, practice research, and in clinical health. And he's now the Director General at the Nigerian Institute for Social and Economic Research. So it is my great pleasure, first of all, to welcome Dr. Folarin. Please, can you take the floor?
Thank you very much, Josepha. Hello, everybody. Before I launch into this subject, I think I should make some effort to situate Africa, a contextual frame, so to speak. We Africans, not the ones in diaspora, we live in a developing continent with several mineral-rich, fragile states, post-conflict, post-colonial, post-military rule, in the throes of insurgencies, military coups, and civil wars. We are targeting the Sustainable Development Goals. I wonder, did I miss anything? A friend of mine, Tunji Lardner, describes Africa as a continent in time conflation. Some societies, mostly rural, are pre-modern. Most systems are in the industrial age at best, with a few people living in the capital and some of the largest cities in a postmodern world. That is, they have Starlink, they use their cell phones and internet and interact with the world freely. If cooperation is our ability to get along, that is acting together for the common good, one has to ask, who are we cooperating with? Each other? Are we cooperating with the wider world? And in any case, why the emphasis on education? My short answer is development. We equate knowledge with power, which produces wealth and ultimately impacts as development. Education is how we disseminate this knowledge. Of course, this is a somewhat linear view of education. The traditional forms of education, there's all the way to prehistory with Ubuntu and things that just kept society going. I think development in Africa right now has two main targets. One, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the second is the Africa Free Trade Area Initiative. We have to pull this off in a world driven by binary thinking. The question that Lena asked, which is why are we not cooperating? My contribution would be that we have defined living in the world as a competitive game. You know, think game theory here. And there are going to be winners and losers. And everybody is striving to be on the winning side. Just by the way, there are fewer and fewer people on the winning end. If you throw in AI and you throw in tech, quantum computing, and so forth, they're only going to be, I don't know, 4 or 5 winners ultimately in the world, and the rest of us will be observers to that game or consumers of what they throw at us. We have to pull development off in Africa in a world driven by binary thinking. However, the education system in Africa is dated. It is solidly geared towards a binary world. We have testing, who wins, who loses in the classroom, who gets the plum jobs, and who falls between the cracks. This is a singularly Darwinian arrangement. And the loser gets absolutely nothing. He disappears in the general scheme of things. So very kindly, the rest of the world has said, oh, well, Africa should not lose or should not lose completely. So the debate started, do we help with aid or trade? Well, between these two binaries sits a vast space that is cooperation. AfCFTA, the African Free Trade Zone, will fail if based on a winner-take-all paradigm. The sustainable goals will not be reached in this vehicle either. So what are we really trading? If we are talking about trade, what are we trading? I suggest, looking at the future, that we are trading knowledge. The knowledge economy is much bigger than the physical industrial economy and the Bing economy, biotech, informatics, nanotechnology, and cognitive economies. For those who are not familiar with the term Bing, is going to be huge. It's going to be so much larger than, and I'm talking about several orders of magnitude here, than even the knowledge economy on which the internet, people like Google have made billions. This will be an economy talking in the trillions. We'll even be importing stuff from space to add to what we have here. Yet the educational system, which is the infrastructure on which all this is based, is on a pre-industrial model. That is in Africa, and an industrial model even in the West, in the global North. So I asked, what does cooperation look like? Cooperation in broadest sense looks like Ubuntu, goodwill, ethics, tolerance. I ask myself, how do we incorporate some of these principles into the Western model so we can all get along and develop at the same time? I've had occasion to ask Lena that, is it possible to imagine a world where everybody wins instead of this win-lose arrangement? Of course, another view of cooperation is that it is a backdoor to obtaining social permissions. That is the permission to think differently for an African citizen who is bound by convention, orthodoxy, and so on. It's cooperation outside of the continent would grant social permissions for a situation where he or she would dare to engender inquiry, tear down barriers raised by dogma, ideology, and orthodoxy. In other words, establishment think. This is a continent where children are chastised for even behaving differently from their colleagues. Everybody should be the same. Cooperation, finally, in my view, involves exploring new commons. These commons, we're talking about commons in the economic sense. The SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are one such common. Cooperation, as Pinda Wong puts it, involves a more covalent arrangement. You should listen to his video on female money. Again, it's on the website of the Equinox meeting. It introduces the concept of a more female approach to thinking about development. In other words, it accepts the notion that everyone can win. Cooperative games as opposed to competitive games. For Africa, I think, to reach its goals, we have to move towards a more inclusive education system. We have to cross several domains: healthcare, the environment, the blue-green economies, the cooperative economies, physics. We have to basically rethink the way we encourage our children and young adults to think. It's not really about outcomes. We're trying to drill down into the very foundations of the thought process. Africa is a place where religion, culture, traditions are held in very high value. Unfortunately, the result has been a certain ossification, rigidity within our school systems, so that we're trapped in rote, trapped in orthodoxy, and it's not getting better. At the same time, the world is moving away and at a rapid clip from this type of thinking. The question is, how will Africa catch that train on its way to development and the BINC economy?